Hello everyone, Niklsun here, and welcome back to Coming Soon Movie News with Niklsun. I'm your host, and on this show, we're going to be covering all of the day's movie news, as well as going over what it means for the production in general, such as casting decisions, trailer announcements, director announcements, things like that. So, without any further ado, let's get started with today's Hot Topics. Disney has gone ahead and released the first trailer for their upcoming drama known as The Finest Hours. Now, this movie stars Chris Pine, Casey Affleck. It also stars Ben Foster and Eric Bana. Now, this is a long description for this movie, but this is something that I was not even aware of. When I started watching the trailer, I was like, oh, it's like a new version of The Perfect Storm. But this precedes The Perfect Storm by about 35 to 40 years. So this is the description of the movie. On February 18th, 1952, a massive nor'easter struck New England, pummeling towns along the eastern seaboard and wreaking havoc on the ships caught in its deadly path, including the SS Pendleton, a T-2 oil tanker bound for Boston, which was literally ripped in half, trapping more than 30 sailors inside the rapidly sinking stern. As a senior officer on board, First Assistant Engineer Ray Seibert, played by Casey Affleck, soon realizes it is up to him to take charge of the frightened crew and inspire the men to set aside their differences and work together to ride out one of the worst storms to ever hit the East Coast. Meanwhile, as word of the disaster reaches the U.S. Coast Guard station in Chatham, Massachusetts, Warrant Officer Daniel Clough, played by Eric Bana, orders a daring operation to rescue the stranded men. Despite overwhelming odds, 4 men, led by Coast Guard Captain Bernie Webster, played by Chris Pine, set out in a wooden lifeboat with an ill-equipped engine and little, if any, means of navigation, facing frigid temperatures, 60-foot-high waves, and hurricane-force winds. Now, if you haven't watched the trailer for this movie, click the link in the description of this video below and watch the trailer. This looks like it's going to be a pulse-pounding, heart-wrenching epic. Now, the Perfect Storm, one of the things about the Perfect Storm was it was glorifying the shots. And well, not necessarily glorifying the shots. Everything that took place on the boat was all fabricated. They had no idea whether or not that was actually true. Nobody from the ship survived. Spoiler alert for the Perfect Storm. Nobody survives, so everything that took place on the boat was fabricated to make it more entertaining for the film. This, on the other hand, while I still don't know whether or not I don't like looking into real-world events if a movie is coming out, only because I want to take the movie for what it is. I don't want to hold it against whether or not it was historically accurate, such as with The Perfect Storm, because that was something that I was very aware of at the time, and I knew about that storm. When the movie came out, I was like, oh, this is cool. Oh, wait, no, I never heard about that. No, I never heard about that. Never heard about that. And it just kind of went off the rails. So with this, I'm trying to stay in the dark when it comes to what this, what ends up actually happening at the end. But this trailer, I mean, it looks immersive. It looks huge. It looks, what's the word I'm looking for? Oh, it's like a sweeping epic, you know? I mean, you get a lot of these amazing shots. You get a lot of these, harrowing sequences where they're in this little tiny boat in the middle of winter in February in the 1950s when, so many things that we have now today that we take for granted, they didn't even have access to back then. And so you got these 4 guys going on if the water wasn't moving as fast as it would be frozen. That's how cold the entire area was. And they've got this little tiny boat that can hold, I believe, up to 12 men. And there's more than 30 survivors on the ship. So even if they do make it to the ship, they have to choose less than half the men there who's going to survive and who's not. Like that, these decisions, these questions, these propositions that are brought up, this is fascinating from a movie standpoint to know that, these things actually happen in real life, that these events actually took place, and that there are times where heroism, like there's a song by Rise Against called Hero of War, and that has always kind of inspired me to try to write a movie. And the title would be called Hero of War ? Because it's whether or not they are actually a hero or whether or not they're just being perceived as one, because a lot of the information that we know about them is not, or the information that actually happened is being kept hidden, because they're trying to wash over the fact that this guy's a hero when he's maybe a murderer, or maybe he's a psychopath, or whatever the case is. So when I see something like this, you look at the fact that these people are going to have to choose. Less than half of these guys are most likely going to survive. The ones that already survived the wreck, and they're going to have to choose, and everybody's kind of go against one another, and there could be a really mental aspect to this, and I think that's just fascinating. And on top of that, look at the cast. I mean, Chris Pine has been kind of pegged as a character actor in a leading man's body. I've heard that expressed a couple of times. And that is almost perfect. Because when you watch this movie, I wasn't necessarily seeing Chris Pine. I was seeing this other character that he was portraying. Not just because of the accent. That wasn't it. It was, you could see a drive in him, but you could also see innocence. You could see passion, but you could also see naivety. And that's something that leading men not all the time have. I mean, you look at when Hollywood tries to force them on us. You know, like right now they're doing that with Jai Courtney, who I don't really have a problem with. I've liked him in a lot of films. It's just some of the projects he's worked on, he just hasn't been given a lot to do. But I actually didn't mind him for the most part in Terminator Genesis. I thought he did a really good job. Loved him in Spartacus. Thought he was great in Jack Reacher. I mean, yeah, Die Hard 5 he wasn't good in, but nothing about that movie was good. Except for that car chase. The car chase was one of the only cool things because it was real. Like, it just felt real. It didn't feel CGI. And that was one of the cool parts about that movie, but that was probably the only cool part about it. But you look at the supporting cast that he has. So you got Ben Foster is in there as one of the guys that goes along with Chris Pine. You have Casey Affleck as the guy who's actually trying to keep everybody in control on the ship as it's sinking. You have Eric Bana basically saying to Chris Pine's character, "You're going to go out and die." And Chris Pine even responds back. The guy says, he's sending you out on a death wish. He's like, well, the Coast Guard says we have to go out. Doesn't say we have to come back in. And having that mentality is such a fascinating thing to see on screen. Because you see somebody who is, their job is to go out there and try to save some people. If they don't make it, they don't make it. But that's not their call. They don't choose whether or not it's too risky for me. No, they don't choose that at all. They go out there and hopefully they come back. Hopefully they succeed, but they might not. And having somebody with enough gusto to actually do that, especially in this time frame. I mean, it's set in the 50s. So this to me is just absolutely fascinating. Again, check out the link in the description of this video to watch the trailer. And this is actually, my next topic is actually going to be a jumping off point with this film, but it really has nothing to do with the film. It has more to do with the release date, but it's still, I mean, I'm most excited to see, out of all the sequences in the movie, I think one of the best sequences in the movie is going to be the scene when it's revealed that they can only take 12 people. And what's going to happen with everybody. Because even in the trailer, like you get quick little glimpses of all these great supporting characters. And I wonder who, in fact, is actually going to survive. You know, I mean, that's one of the biggest questions. But to visually see a giant tanker ripped in half and still floating, getting this little tiny boat that in certain circumstances is either rolling or going right underwater. I mean, this looks like it's going to be a harrowing movie. It looks like it's going to be on par with Everest in terms of just an immersive experience, seeing it in IMAX and in full 3D. There's a lot of capabilities with this. There's a lot of possibilities that this is going to bring out about watching a film and being able to see it and being immersed by it. I was blown away by this, to be completely honest. I did not expect this movie. I thought that it was going to be good, but I thought it was going to be Disneyfied. And it wasn't. It really wasn't. This almost looks like it was made by Paramount. That was one of the first studios. As soon as it says, Disney Presents. And I was really kind of flabbergasted by that because it looked like either a Paramount movie or even a Sony film. It just had that production design. And I know that Sony films don't necessarily have a specific production design, but you can always kind of tell what movie Disney's going to make. You can always kind of tell what kind of movie Sony's going to make or what kind of movie Paramount's going to make. They all have the same feel to them. Well, I'm not explaining this right. Anyway, for those of you out there, you kind of know what I'm getting at. At least I hope so. I know I'm not explaining this very well, but still, I mean, I can't wait to see a story that took place, 60 years ago, over 60 years ago, and we haven't seen on the big screen before. I mean, to me, for us to get at the perfect storm before we got this, I thought was a little weird because this is something, it was one of the first, it was the most harrowing naval rescue, I think, or Coast Guard rescue in history. So, I mean, where do you go from here, Now, the movie's going to be up, and this is the part that gets me onto the next topic. So, The movie's going to be opening up on January 29th of 2016. So if you guys do have any comments to put down, put a comment in the comment section below. And if we do get more information about this topic, I will definitely update you guys on here. As I said in the last story, this one here is kind of related, and it has to do with January releases. So, one project that I am very curious about that's coming out in the next couple of years is the upcoming adaptation of Power Rangers. And one of the reasons is because I grew up on that show. Now, until I see stills from it or anything like that, I'm going to be excited for it because it's something that I remember waking up, you know, at probably 5:30 or 6 o'clock in the morning, even before my parents were awake. This is when I was like 4 or 5. I remember waking up, running into the room, running into the living room, turning the TV on, tuning the antenna to the right channel, and trying to watch Power Rangers, kind of grainy because we didn't quite get the channel, because that was back in antenna, before cable, before satellite, all this kind of stuff. You actually had a little turn dial that you had to turn. Not on the TV, not when you went click, click, click. It was actually like a little dial that you had to turn, and your antenna actually moved on the top of your house. And so I remember always waking up and watching Power Rangers and seeing them go against Rita Repulsa and the Putties and you know, Goldar and all these different characters. And so I've been really excited about the Power Rangers movie. At least, you know, with the capability of what they can do nowadays. There's a lot of possibilities for it. And so when the movie was moved from, I think it was either a June or July release date, it was moved to a January release date, and everybody went, oh no, this means the studio doesn't have faith in it, and it's going to be garbage and all this kind of stuff, and they're just trying to bury it and everything. And how stupid are you people who think that? Because let's just be clear. Whenever a studio moves a film to January because they're worried about it, it's because the movie is only a few months away and they know that they have a giant steaming pile of garbage on their hands. They have too much money invested in this, they can't scrap it, and they've got to try to find a place that's either not going to be too expensive, but they might try to recoup some money on it, and then just try to forget about it. That does happen from time to time. When you look at a movie like Power Rangers is still developing its script. They're still working on the script. They haven't even begun casting yet. They're nowhere near getting behind the camera. So why would a studio like Lionsgate come out and set a release date of January 2017 if they thought the movie was crap? If they thought the movie was crap, they would scrap it. They do not have enough invested in it for them to lose a lot. Like I said, they're still working on the script. They're working on getting some casting. They probably maybe just started building sets. I don't even think they're building sets yet. They're still working on the script. They haven't invested enough money in this for them to just have to deal with it, just to try to put up with it and find the right time to release it. I'm getting so sick and tired of people saying, January's a dump month, January's a dump month. That can happen, yes. There are films that do get released there that are bad, absolutely. But just look in the last couple of years. You've got Taken, Cloverfield, The Grey. Even most recently, you have American Sniper. You know, you have Kingsman. You have a lot of films. You have Lego Movie from last year. You have all of these movies that come out in this time because, A, the studios know that if they do have a quality product on there, there's almost no competition whatsoever. I mean, look at what's going to happen this year when Force Awakens open in December. It's going to rule because, from my understanding, except for this film, The Finest Hours, and I think there's another one too that's releasing in January, it's not going to have a lot of competition from quality films, at least that have been announced yet. So I don't understand why people say that, you know, if a movie is moving to January, it's automatically a bad film. No. Whoever thinks that, if they think any movie that moves to January is going to be a bad film, you're an idiot. You need to stop what you're doing, find a deep hole, and just fall into it because you are an idiot. You do not think things through. You do not understand that, hey, a studio does not have hardly anything invested in this project. And I'm just using this one as an example, but there are other projects that are in this same situation. When they get announced as having a January release date, automatically it's assumed that it's going to be garbage. And why? Because there have been other films that have been pushed to that time frame. Like you look at Jupiter Ascending, a movie that I actually did enjoy. I recognize it is a horrible film, but I actually get quite a kick out of it. That movie was originally supposed to come out in July of last year. It was getting very close to the release. I think they were only a month or two away, and they decided, nope, this isn't very good. We're going to need to bump it, so they pushed it to January. or sorry, February. They pushed it to February because they knew that it wasn't going to be a great movie. It wasn't going to recoup a lot of its costs. It had a higher chance of recouping some of its money in February as opposed to it opening up in the middle of summer and getting completely destroyed. Now, next year, you've got Deadpool. Anybody who thinks January and February are dump months, that means you're automatically, and these are the people who are saying any movie that comes out now or in this time frame is garbage. That means you think that Deadpool is going to be just a bad movie because they automatically set a February release date. Outside of the fact that February actually makes sense when you're looking at 2016, you have Batman v Superman coming out in March. So having Deadpool coming out when the BVS marketing campaign is going to be in full swing at that point, that makes perfect sense for them to release a movie then. There's not going to be a lot of competition for several weeks, and it's in the same vein, it's in the same genre as Batman v Superman, so it's going to get even more people to go out. It's on top of that, it's a comedy. I mean, the reason that they picked that, I'm almost for certain that they picked that because of Kingsman. Because Kingsman can actually, wait, did they say that before? They might have said that before Kingsman came out. My bad. But no, there's lots of reasons why studios will choose those dates to release a movie. And 9 times out of 10 has nothing to do with whether or not they have confidence in the film. It's whether or not it works on their release schedule or anything of that sort. So I really get mad when I see these arguments. Like, oh no, be worried about this because it's opening up in January. Really? Why? Have you seen a picture? Have you seen a still? Have you seen the official synopsis? No? Okay, then how do you know it's bad? Honestly, how do you know it's bad? Because it has this person in it? Okay. A lot of the hate right now going out for Batman v Superman stems from Ben Affleck not being a very good actor. He just happened to be the lead actor in a movie that won Best Picture. The movie that he led before that was one of the best films of that year, The Town. So, and you know, he just worked with David Fincher on Gone Girl, and he was fantastic in Gone Girl. I don't get all this hate because of something that somebody did like 10, 12 years ago. Why? Get over it. They've completely changed. You think that their acting ability from 12 years ago is the exact same as it is now? You're an idiot. You need to stop what you're doing. Again, find a deep hole and fall into it because you are an idiot. And I'm just sick and tired of these arguments. I really am. Because if the studio thought that it was going to be a bomb, they would scrap the film unless they had already completed principal photography. They had completed principal photography. They are then going to do what they can to try to rectify it. But also, you're going to get a very good idea of the film when you're watching dailies. There is a whole production system set up to prevent movies from being bad. Sometimes it just happens. You get too many people involved in making notes and doing all this kind of stuff that the movie just becomes shambles. You then get a situation like Jupiter Ascending, which I am almost 100% confident on, had almost no studio involvement. Almost none. There's no way that a studio would have said, you know, like the dog line would have worked, or you know, that the hairstyles and stuff like that of some of the characters, like they were just crazy and zany for no reason, and they went too far. It takes you out of the movie a little bit. And that was a lot of the problems stemmed from the dialogue in the movie, but also some of it was the character designs because they just looked goofy. And the movie was taking itself very serious, but then you get this goofy side of it, and that's where I think it fell apart. But that's where you can tell that the Wachowskis were just given, here you go, here's a blank check, go and make your sci-fi film. Because Warner Brothers loves being in business with them for some reason. I mean, they made the Matrix movies, and that made a lot of money, absolutely. But then they did Speed Racer, which didn't make a lot of money. And then they produced V for Vendetta, which I think it was a modest success. But then they did Cloud Atlas, which was a financial disaster. And then they did, now they've done Jupiter Ascending, again, another financial disaster. I don't even think that movie made back its budget. There are parts of this argument that do make a little bit of sense, but when it comes to specifically a movie like Power Rangers or a movie that hasn't gone into production yet, you're an idiot. You're just an idiot because you haven't thought it through. You just see January release and you automatically assume that it's going to be bad because you haven't actually used your brain to think through a legitimate argument. So before you start, you know, coming out and saying that a movie deserves a January release because it's terrible, actually use your brain and put a sentence together in your head that makes sense and think it through. Okay? So for all the movies that are going to be coming out in January, I mean, American Sniper in 2014 was, I believe, I think it usurped, it became the #1 movie of 2014. And guess what? It was released wide in January. Mic drop. I would drop this, but it's a very expensive mic. So yeah, that's my little rant about January releases. Yeah, that's really all I had to say. So when it comes to other movies that are coming out in January, big productions such as The Finest Hours or anything else like that, if we do get more information about those topics, then I will definitely update you guys on here. Entertainment Weekly was just privy to a bunch of new photos from the upcoming Batman v Superman Dawn of Justice, including the cover, which featured the Trinity. Now, one of the biggest complaints about again, people complaining about Batman, Superman, and Wonder Woman in live action being together for the first time, there's nothing they won't complain about. It really does boggle my mind. Because you look at, now yes, the construction of the photo did have an issue. I did have a big issue with it. The white background was stupid, to be completely honest. The position of Batman on the page actually made him look a little bloated. And I think if you look at the actual photo, it's his neck. The neck is what does it because it goes out. It goes completely out. It doesn't have any dip from his head or anything of that sort. It goes completely out. Now, when we actually see it in the finished film, it might look better. This is a still image. It obviously was a production image. It wasn't when they were on set. This was done as a photo shoot. I like the look of Wonder Woman. I've never been opposed to the look of Wonder Woman, especially in the DC universe, or the DC cinematic universe, I should say. The thing that I'm opposed to is Gal Gadot, only because we haven't seen anything from her yet in terms of acting. Now, I have a feeling that she is actually going to knock it out of the park. I have a feeling they've worked the role to suit her. Not saying that the role is going to be limited because she's not a good actress. I don't think that's the case. I mean, Warner Brothers knows what kind of an investment they're under right now with having a model, an Israeli model, playing Wonder Woman, the most known and most popular female character in pop culture. So they've got a lot riding on that. And I know that they would not make the mistake just because Zack Snyder wanted somebody pretty. I know that that is not the case. There were other actresses in my head that I felt would have been a better Wonder Woman, but we haven't seen what this interpretation of Wonder Woman is going to be. So that is why we cannot say that she is going to be a terrible one. We can only say that based on her previous work, I believe she is probably going to be bad, but I'm willing to give her the benefit of the doubt, especially because Warner Brothers would not risk such a huge investment on somebody just because someone's pretty. They're not Michael Bay, all right? So, with these new stills, which, I mean, there's a bunch of them. I absolutely love the Batman and Superman one where they're facing off and Batman's in his armored uniform. The one that really interested me, actually, was the shot of Bruce Wayne and Diana Prince. Because if you read the Entertainment Weekly column on that, they both know each other's secret identities. At least that's what it alludes to. Because it says, you know, it's amazing to see these two people as their who know each other's alter egos. And that to me is really fascinating. I don't think on screen, especially in any DC movie, that we have seen that type of interaction before. I mean, this is kind of like taking a page out of Marvel, but whereas these people are all, I think, going to be seeing each other as adversaries in some capacity, they are eventually going to overcome everything and try to work together while still being apprehensive about each other. Like, Batman's still going to be weary about, you know, this godlike creature who can basically rip the world in half if he wanted to. He could just fly up into space, fly back down and punch the Earth and cause an explosion that would completely devastate the planet. He could do that. Wonder Woman, according to Charles Roven, the producer of Batman v Superman, her lineage goes back to Zeus. So she is connected to the Greek gods in some capacity. Like, there's a lot of trepidation with dealing with some of these people. Like, yeah, they're on my side right now. What happens if I piss them off? Or what happens if they get in a bad mood? They wake up on the wrong side of the bed. You know, I mean, Superman could literally destroy the world because he got mad. And he for 1 second, just loses control. 1 second. That's all it takes. And then, boom, you know, he could completely eviscerate our atmosphere. Like, there are so many different ways that these people, because they all want to help. But everybody's version of helping is always different. I mean, you look at the best villains in movies or in literature in general. they never believe that they're the bad guy. They think that they're doing everything for the right reasons. And, you know, seeing all these people working together, I think it's going to be really cool. I really do think that there's going to be a lot of not mischief, but there's going to be trepidation between all of the characters. I don't even think it's going to be Dawn of Justice. So we are going to be introducing them. I do not think that by the end of this film that they are going to be a team. The Trinity will be. The Trinity will work together at the end of this film. I have no doubt about that. But we're not going to see Aquaman and Flash or Green Lantern or Cyborg also showing up. Though, like, we're going to see glimpses, I believe, of Aquaman and Flash if the reports that have come out are to be believed. But they're not going to be any more than maybe a few seconds on screen, maybe a minute or two. But that's going to be it. They're not going to be at the end. They're not going to come all together and fight. That's going to happen in Justice League. We're not going to get that until Justice League. So just hold off on that. But other bits of information that were brought out were really intriguing. The biggest one to me was that it kind of confirmed our suspicions that Batman's armored suit would in fact be laced with kryptonite. Now, the biggest question to me, how the hell did they get kryptonite? Because in Man of Steel, in Superman lore, it's a meteor shower that brings Clark to Earth. Once his planet explodes, he comes along with several, meteorites and stuff like that from Krypton, from the planet that blew up. And when that crashes, parts of the rock from the planet are what actually cause him to feel sick and lose his powers. That did not happen in Man of Steel. In Man of Steel, his ship teleported, or it went through a wormhole. But there was no other pieces of debris from the planet that came with him, so therefore no kryptonite. Now, the ongoing theory is that when Zod's ship and the World Machine were trying to change Earth's atmosphere, this is super nerd territory for those of you who haven't watched the movies, when Zod's ships were trying to terraform Earth to make it more like Krypton, the world engine in the Indian Ocean, I believe, has actually affected part of the landscape and actually turned that into kryptonite. The other theory is that kryptonite was developed due to Lex Luthor's investigation of Zod's body. And that's also potentially how Doomsday is created. So if that is the case and Bruce Wayne got his hands on some and laced his costume or his armor outfit with kryptonite, will at least level the playing field or even the playing field out. It will reduce, like in the IMAX preview I said, because they showed about an extra 4 or 5 seconds at the end of it. And you saw Superman, he was like kind of crouching down and he just had this really pissed off look and he gets up and charges at him. But I remember because they showed it twice. And I remember he looked like he was really sweating. And to me, that meant that he was sick. So he is being affected by kryptonite. So I think it's going to change his attitude a little bit. I think it's going to really severely affect him. Humberto Gonzalez, El Mayimbe himself, is also saying that thing that he's holding in the Colosseum-like thing where all the pillars are in the trailer, that it's actually a kryptonite-laced spear. So again, where he gets all this stuff from, we still don't know, because that's something they definitely have to address. If they skip over that in Batman v Superman, there's going to be a lot of outcry for that, because in Man of Steel, there was no kryptonite. There was no mention of kryptonite at all. They kind of hinted at it in a sense when he was on the Kryptonian ship and he became weaker. He couldn't breathe. He was coughing up blood. And so a Kryptonian environment might actually cause problems for his system. But kryptonite itself actually being laced, and I still don't know how they're going to do that. So it's going to take, they're going to have to explain that for sure. But one of the coolest comments to me was Wonder Woman is said to be the gateway drug to the Justice League and that she has a very important role. That to me means she's not going to be in the film very much. Now, I don't think Wonder Woman is going to be in the movie that much. I don't think we're going to see her until the third act. We might get a little glimpse of her early on, like in the shadows or something like that, and then we'll see her in full bore at the end of the film. But Diana will probably be a character throughout the film. But Wonder Woman, with the outfit, with the lasso and the sword and the shield and everything, that won't be, I believe, until the end battle. So who knows? I mean, we still got a lot of time to get a lot more information, especially Saturday morning. For those of you who are not aware, the Warner Brothers and DC panel for Comic-Con. I'm going to be going over this later on today. I'm going to have my Comic-Con preview episode later today. But their panel is Saturday morning at 10:30 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. It's going to be done around 12 Pacific Standard Time. So that'll be about 1:30 to 3 on the Eastern Seaboard. I am so excited. And so I'm going to talk about this on my Comic-Con preview, but I will be having episodes up after each major panel. So the ones that I know that I'm doing are the Star Wars panel, the Legendary panel, the Fox panel, the Warner Brothers DC Cinematic Universe panel, and then also the Warner Brothers Television panel, the DC's television panel. So I'm going to be doing one after each one of those. I will be with the DC television panel. I will be launching my new show. The tentative title of it right now, and it will probably change after a couple of episodes, will be Superheroes on the Small Screen, but I will be changing the title at some point. I'm so shocked at how amazing the landscape of television superheroes has become. I mean, we got Daredevil season 2, which is just cast Elektra. We got Punisher in there. Bullseye's on the way. You know, you got Jessica Jones, I believe, is almost done filming, if not already done filming. We're going to get that by the end of the year. And then you're going to get Luke Cage is going to be sometime next year, probably. And then we're also going to get Iron Fist, which Iron Fist right now is a movie that they're really having a tough time cracking. But all of this stuff I'm going to be talking about after that panel, because there's going to be a lot of DC stuff. There's also a Marvel television panel, which I'm going to be covering as well. I'm not too sure as to the length of those episodes. They'll probably be quick little recaps, but yeah, keep your eye out on all those, and also keep your eye out later on today for my Comic-Con preview panel. So Batman v Superman is going to be opening up on March 25th, 2016, but we're going to be getting a lot more information this Saturday, so keep your eye out for that. And if we do get more information, or should I say when we get more information about this topic, then I will definitely update you guys on here. Well, that'll about do it for this episode of Coming Soon Movie News with Niklsun. Thank you so much for watching. You guys have been a great audience. Go ahead and click that subscribe button there in the bottom corner. You can get updates whenever we post a new video. You can also follow me on Twitter and Instagram at Niklsun, Niklsun, for all of your movie updates. And also give our Facebook page a like at facebook.com/movie news with Niklsun. If you ever have a topic or a question you'd like to have talked about on the show, you can go ahead and put a comment in the comment section, or you can email me at movienewswithniklsun@gmail.com, and I will try to get to as many as I can whenever I'm able to, when there's no stories. This week I'm going to be loading the channel with new episodes. It's probably going to be 2 or 3 a day until probably Sunday or Monday, and then I'll get back onto the regular schedule starting next week. So I'm really excited about this, but again, drop a comment in the comment section or email me at movienewswithniklsun@gmail.com if you guys ever have a topic, question, or property or anything like that you want to have discussed. So without any further ado, you guys enjoy the rest of your day. Take care.